Okay, welcome to this sixth installment of Trust Masterclass. We are talking about trust, Mumbi Trust Masterclass. We've been talking about all the way from what a trust is, and in today's session we're going to be talking about trust compliancy. And again, I'm joined here by Dion Adams, who's going to take us through that. Dion, trust compliance is one of the big topics, and I think we've been alluding to that in our previous classes. Please go back to the previous classes if you haven't watched them. Tell us more about trust compliance, especially when it comes to the South African law and the income tax. What is trust compliance?
Well, the first thing that one should do with all entities as such, whether it being a company, a trust, whatsoever entity, is to register with the South African Revenue Services, and to make sure that you have good corporate governance to ensure that you actually get the final result in order to submit the annual income tax return.
Okay, so basically here we're talking about income tax and income tax returns and making sure that you have an income tax number for income tax purposes. That is a key requirement, and that is possibly the starting point for compliance.
Yes, because currently, before you can or whilst you want to transact in South Africa, you would require what we would refer to as a TCS PIN, a tax clearance status PIN.
Okay.
To always to comply would mean that your taxes would need to be up to date.
Okay, sounds good. I think that is pretty straightforward. So just making sure that you have your income tax registration and you have an income tax number. But the second one that you mentioned earlier was that one of the requirements in terms of compliance is that all trustees need to apply their mind in making the decisions. How does that play on when it comes to compliance and whether the trust is compliant or not? What if the trustees don't apply their mind in making decisions?
Well, basically, you have to apply your mind. For instance, when you purchase a property, this is in the case of a discretionary trust.
Yeah.
Do your research, and I referred to it in one of the earlier sessions. I referred to it, and I mentioned run it as a business.
Okay.
Look at your plan going forward. Apply your mind and try and stick to your original plan.
Okay, sounds good. So there you go in terms of making decisions. So the trustees have to apply their mind. But the second one is maybe also related to that, or maybe related to the first point where we're talking about keeping accounting records. I think a key requirement when it comes to trusts and trust compliance is keeping a good record of their financials. Is that true to say?
Yes. In fact, it's in line with the Trust Property Control Act.
Okay.
When you sign the acceptance as a trustee, it is one of the requirements that you actually keep good accounting records.
Yeah.
And keep all documents in safe custody. To be recalled, or if should the Master of the High Court or should SARS or any statutory body requires to lay eyes on them.
Okay.
So you have to keep those documents in safe custody.
Okay, sounds good. So that's the other one in terms of the requirements. But another one along the same lines is once the accounts are all sorted and you've developed now the annual financial statement, it's also to keep with the compliancy. You need to make sure that the returns are submitted to the receiver of revenue.
Yes, and that's part of the statutory requirements.
Okay.
There could be other requirements as well. Some trusts are registered for VAT. Mm-hmm. Not all trusts need to be registered for VAT, but you do have trusts that's registered for VAT.
Okay. Trusts
that's registered for pay as you earn. So these statutory requirements, one needs to look at and one needs to adhere to it.
Okay, sounds good. So those are some of the statutory requirements as part of compliance. But maybe one last one is, and maybe not last in terms of everything that is needed to be there, we're just talking about the major ones, is that the trustees need to meet at least once a year. So there needs to be an AGM for the trust.
Yes, okay. And that, as you say, it's a minimum requirement. So meeting more than once could be advantageous because obviously, trustees would then apply their minds more. But the AGM is the final document, the annual general meeting. It's a source document, and it's a requirement in most cases by the trust deed and the Trust Property Control Act. So it is suggested and advised that you meet, in fact, in my view, you should meet more than once a year.
Okay, sounds good. So those are the compliance or the trust compliancy that we're talking about here. And the good thing about this is that we have covered the minimum requirements. I think there could be more, but these are the minimum requirements that are needed for a trust to run well. The next episode of this is going to be looking at the trust administration. So we're going to get into the details of how to administer a trust and administer it correctly for it to be able to meet this compliance that we've just spoken about as a minimum. So join us for the next episode when we'll be looking at trust administration. Cheers and bye-bye.
Cheers.